Greetings. Welcome to the DragonCon Urban Fantasy Track discussion of Astrid and Lilly Save the World, which is a fun show. We're really excited to be able to talk about it tonight. And though I am the director of the track and usually end up being the moderator for these panels, we did not get to do the panel at con after all. So the person who was all prepared to do it and wasn't able to is my able assistant, Anna, who is going to be taking over as moderator for the panel tonight, although I'm sure that I will probably have a lot to say. And I always have questions. So anyway, so Anna, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, I am Anna Puerta. As Carol said, I'm a volunteer on the Urban Fantasy track, and I also have an MFA in film and television. So that's my little spiel about me. I'd love to hear our panelists introduce themselves. I guess we can just go around.
Okay.
Are we all in everybody? Are we all in the same position on everybody else?
I don't know if we're all in the same position.
Yeah.
Pick somebody.
Lisa.
Okay, my name is Lisa Manifold. I am an author of 90 books now, urban fantasy, paranormal romance, fiction, and I love shows like this. I was really excited to be on the panel, so ready for the discussion.
Yep. I guess, Sherry, are you up next?
Oh, I could be. I don't know. Hi. Hi, my name is Sherry Priest. I have not written that many books. I've had a couple dozen published, everything from horror and Southern Gothic to steampunk. And 9 times out of 10, if someone says, I read your book, they mean Bone Shaker, which is fine. Honestly, I appreciate that. It's a dozen years old now, but thank you. I bought a house, not in Seattle, in Tennessee, but now I'm back in Seattle. So I really liked the show. I thought it was precious, and so. Like, I have this vibe right now that I'm shooting for. Listen, it's been a dark handful of years, okay? And I have been joking that my new vibe is going to be either cozy horror or like spoopy core. You know, so something with some paranormal thrills and danger and darkness. But, but the stakes are different and the focus is different. And I really, really loved seeing... I love this thing that sci-fi is doing broadly lately that is embodied very nicely in Astrid and Lilly, which is shows about women being supportive of one another and just being friends and people being friends, having like male friends. Yep. And when you set this in high school, which is such a fraught time for everybody, and these two lovely young women who are there for one another and for their community. And it just warms the burly cockles of my heart. And I'm a big fan. That's all.
And can I just interject? I'm not sure which phrase I like better: burly cockles of my heart or cozy horror. Both of
I didn't make up either of those. Okay, like I'm borrowing both of those. Do not credit those to me.
Okay, they're still good. Okay,
spoopy core I will claim, but
okay, there you go.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to assume that I'm next. I'm Corinne O'Flynn, and I write under 3 different pen names. I have 43 titles out now. I write urban fantasy, paranormal romance, and regular contemporary romance. And I enjoyed the show. I loved being at DragonCon, and I'm so sad that we couldn't do it then, and I'm glad we're doing it now. So happy to be here.
Absolutely. I know. I was so sad too, which is why we're here.
Now, if I could, I would also like to say for any of our viewers, anybody who happens to be watching now, if you would like to take part in the discussion by either making comments or asking questions of us, you can do that if you sign into StreamYard, and it will let you make those comments so that we can see them. Okay, I will shut up now. It's Anna's show.
No, thank you for that, because I wouldn't have remembered to tell them to get on the StreamYard. Okay, so one of the first questions is that I went to the official Twitter page, as you do for a show that you're obsessed with, and they describe themselves as Buffy minus the male gaze. And yes. I wanted to get your opinions on how you felt about that descriptor. Like, I feel like since I've started watching the show, everybody I talked to, I'm like, have you watched Astrid and Lily? Have you even heard about it? Like, tell me, you know, like I'm trying to recruit people because I feel like it's not gotten enough marketing. So I've taken that on myself. I'm the marketer. So I think that's a great way to describe the show and pitch it to people. And I kind of want to hear what you guys think about that. How do you tell people what this show is? We can start with Carol.
I'm gonna open my door before my cat beats it down and drives everybody crazy.
We do have all kinds of animals that show up.
I'm sorry.
You know, I've been thinking about that since I saw that tagline, and I'm not sure that I totally understand what they meant by that, and what they mean by Buffy without the male gaze, because we do have significant male characters in both shows. But if so I'm not sure exactly what they were going for when they said that. Of course, you've got 10 episodes to compare to 7 seasons, which is also not quite balanced. But I do get I guess the thing that I would use to describe it would be to say, yes, kind of like the subtitle or the title that I chose for the panel, the high school can be hell. They got these portals to these hell dimensions literally in high school, which for a number of people is hell. And, you've got these two unlikely heroines. I mean, Buffy was unlikely because she's the small blonde woman or girl when the show begins, and they're unlikely because they seem to be more interested in other things besides, not that they aren't interested in serious things, but they're spying on their fellows and stuff like that to kind of get a feel for what they're really up to and all of that. But I would like to, I'm interested to hear what everybody else has to say about that, without the male gaze part of that tagline, just because I'm not really sure that I saw that in what I was watching from my perspective. But
Corinne?
Okay.
Sorry, I had muted myself because my dogs chose this moment to sing.
Oh, yeah.
That's all right. I've already dragged the cat in.
Of course,
and now I have to let her out.
I have a husky, and so if you hear any high-pitched whining, I apologize. He has also chosen this moment, so that's why I've been muting myself when I'm not talking.
One of my dogs is half husky. I feel you.
Yeah.
She's in my husband's office right now.
So I hadn't heard that phrase to describe the show, and I think it is an interesting way to describe the show, because I don't know that I would have described Buffy as being for the male gaze. But I don't know. I think maybe they have unlikely heroines in what we're used to seeing as the statuesque, very, very slim, bodacious boobs and all the things that we typically see projected onto the screen for the male gaze, perhaps. But I don't know. I'm still kind of processing what that is, because I thought that these girls were fantastic. And I thought that the way that the show was styled was wonderful. And I don't know that the absence or the presence of the male characters, I mean, it was still all about the girls getting the guys and trying to be popular. And so whether or not that was done for the male gaze, I think it still speaks to that whole vibe of trying to be seen by everybody as attractive and popular. So I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that comment or the description, I guess I should say.
Lisa?
I had not read that, and when you said that, I was thinking about it. And one of the things, I love Buffy, and one of the things though that always made me a little crazy was I was like, wow, she just wiped out half a nest of vampires, and she still looks fab, and her hair looks great, and her midriff is all fabulous. So I'm wondering if that's kind of what they mean by the male gaze. one of the things that I liked about this show was that, yes, while they were worried about popularity and, get the guy, it was very much from like the female point of view. The guys weren't, it didn't seem like they were brought forward as much. Whereas if you see something like Buffy, Spike and Angel were just as much of an aspect of this as Buffy was. So that, I don't know, because I didn't read that, but in thinking about that, that would be my initial immediate response, is that this was definitely, more from a female point of view, and from the things that it makes me think back to high school. I don't know about you guys. When you saw it, like, I was like, oh, I can remember this. I can remember worrying about like being really popular and what's my frenemy doing, and did he look at me? But it's from that female point of view, and not, I have to do all this while I'm looking super hot and chop off a head and I still have to look super hot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, that was actually kind of my thought on it too. Like, I thought about, because I just watched season 1 of Buffy. If you're watching this, we are doing a Buffy rewatch series. You're welcome to come join that. And I was thinking about, like, in that season 1, there's like sort of like one of those scenes where Buffy's sitting and she has like a lollipop, and it's like very,
suggestive.
Yes. And there's moments like that in Buffy, and there's also the love triangle and things like that, where it is sort of this 90s we want to be sexy, whereas Astrid and Lilly has this very modern feminist view, where Buffy was a 90s feminist view. That makes sense.
There is a difference in between, if you look at the shows that we watch, because I've done a lot of rewatching of the shows that we watched in like the late 90s, early 2000s, and what we're seeing now, like a really marked difference. So I think there may be that as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think when it comes to male gaze, like, even from a broader standpoint, it felt like a show that was made by and for women.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the easiest example for that, we can talk all day about, who's the blonde, attractive, skinny, whatever, blah. But Astrid and Lilly are outsiders in their own community. They're a unit of one, and they remind me so much of some friends I had in high school named Melissa and Teresa. Hello, y'all, if you're watching. I mean, like, I literally was sending them links to this show. I'm like, you guys, it's you in 91. Look,
That's awesome.
They were like these weird little metalheads in this rural Kentucky. So my parents were stationed at Fort Knox, and so I went to Meade County High School in Brandenburg, Kentucky, and I met Melissa and Teresa, who are Astrid and Lilly, basically. And I was like, you guys have to see this show. Oh my God, because of course we're all Facebook friends.
Yeah.
But the thing that like really leaped out at me, besides the fact that these are not the popular cheerleader girls, they're not the girls that everyone picks to represent their school on a local news event,
Mm-hmm.
But they are beautiful, and they're strong, and they're intelligent, and they're capable. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing I keep looking at is Sparrow, specifically because, not like, oh, well, of course we got to look at the boy. No, I'm thinking of this meme that went around the internet a long time ago about Batman. And it's a guy talking about Batman, and his girlfriend's like, no, Batman is a male power fantasy. If you were writing Batman for women, he would look very different. He would be slender more than bulky, and he would have maybe nice soft lips for kissing. And he would be like this and this and this and this and this. And like the punchline of the webcomic is like the guy going, well, now I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. And then she says something to the effect of, welcome to the background radiation of my life. Mm-hmm. And Sparrow is the boy that those kind of girls, the girls like we were, kind of like got crushes on. He's thin, he's dark and spooky in his own weird little way. He's very centrally focused. He doesn't care what anybody thinks about him, and he's doing his own thing. And he's a good looking guy, yes, but he's not, the jock. He's not like, he's somewhere kind of on the fringes of that. And I kept thinking, like, dude, I totally knew that dude in high school too. I know I did. So I went to a bunch of private Christian schools until I went to live with my dad and stepmom when they were, and that was my first year at public school. And so that was a whole different world for me, my junior year. But that's when I first kind of encountered sorry, I know I'm unfocused right now. I've had a day, and yes, this is booze, but in my defense, no, I never had a friend like Astrid and Lilly, like their friendship. That was not me. That was not my life. I was a little weirdo. And as often as not, my mother was either my teacher or my principal. So that made me even weirder and less likable to literally everyone, you know? And the idea of that best friend, that really close relationship, those girls. And when I saw that in Melissa and Teresa and how welcoming they were of other people, like me, you know, this weird little army brat who has been thrown into drama class with them, which is how we all met, because that was the first time I had been in that kind of environment. And I love that so much, because it does not seem in any way to prioritize any of the dudes or anything they want. And that is a seismic shift from Buffy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm gonna chime in on that and say absolutely. The things that the men, the boys, the men, whatever they wanted, that was secondary. The dude, there was no dude growing going on here, because it was the women. The women were heroes. The women were the villains. The women, like, it was the women.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's where that comes from.
Yeah.
And I do apologize. I had COVID, and that's why I had to cancel on DragonCon. I still have a little bit of the old snot cough. So my apologies, but I am still doing this over here. So
Lovely.
Well, I would like to say one thing, that I did give them points, though. I loved the Buffy references that they made in the show, because there were at least 3 of them that were direct references.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, for me, it was, anytime anybody does that, they get extra points in my book. So just saying.
Paying attention to what came before. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So to make you all rapidly search on IMDb, the next question is, who was your favorite secondary character? Because obviously we loved Astrid and Lilly and their friendship, but who was your favorite secondary character? And we'll start with Corinne this time.
So I hated her, and then I really liked her, Candace, and I think that's exactly what we're supposed to do. But and she's like the low-hanging fruit, because she's like the main secondary character aside from Candace. But I really did enjoy the transformation, and I really did enjoy the way that Candace's character changed Lily's, like, made Lilly change the way that she interacted with Astrid. And I thought that was really well done. And it brought in a sense of realism to it, because it's like, you know, especially at that age, you know, you're hooked arm in arm and you're attached at the hip with your bestie, especially if you're one of the other outcast groups of people, which, you know, I think maybe all of us can identify with that. But you know, but then when you start to really, like, think for yourself and say, well, you know, I like this person. And I really liked the way that they used one of the villains with the misremembering of a thing, where it repaired the way that Lilly saw Candace and her victimhood in that whole situation. I just really enjoyed the arc of Candace. I thought, you know, had this show, is this show continuing? I don't even know. But if this show continues, I really am interested.
We don't know yet.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't think they had announced that yet.
Yeah.
That is a great pivot. That's like my favorite thing with fiction, when you start with somebody you hate and then you come around like, oh man, no, but now they're the character of my heart.
Misunderstood. And with a mother like that, what do you expect? You know?
I know.
Some people do reframe those memories, you know, things that, like, you think it went down this way, but then your brain will do things to that memory in retrospect. And I think you're completely right. That was a really lovely turn. It was a nice pivot that is hard to do, and I think the show did it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. And I think using her as I don't want, we can talk spoilers, like, people have already watched the show.
I'm sure everyone is watching this as well.
It's been over for a while,
yeah.
And I think that making her the love interest for Lilly, like, not only is that just something that we would only ever see now, you know, except for like Velma in the Halloween Scooby-Doo that, like, was that today, but I loved it, and I loved that it really was. It came off so authentically, but I really think it helped because we see Candace as this popular, she's the prom queen, and but she's like afraid. She's living in this shell, and she's not who we think she is. And so I think that they just really did a great job with her character, with the way that they peeled her back, like the way that they peeled the layers away, so that we can actually really get to what was at her core. So yeah, I really thought she was a great character.
Well, she starved for affection and for connection. And Lily is someone with whom she had a legitimate connection when she was young, and then it was broken without either of their consent. So it totally follows that these two people would find their way back to one another.
Yeah.
Just so nicely done. That's all.
It was very nice. It was a nice redemption arc. I agree with that.
Yeah, it was. Lisa, do you have?
So I had to think about this. I actually have two, and one of them is kind of weird. But the first one is actually Christine. I loved Christine. She like
what?
Yeah,
did you like hate love her, or did you love her? I hate love her, but I also love that she was such an awful villain. Like she was in it. She was owning it. She had no regrets. She was like, I am here. This is the goal. Like, I don't have to love them, but I admire when you really play when the villain is done convincingly. You know, even if there can't be
all in,
well, she is like, she's 150% in. It's not just 100. And I like that because I want to, because the villain needs to be the hero of their own story. And she, even though she's a horrible person, she is the hero of her own story, like 100%. So I always,
and she didn't start out that way. She started out thinking it was all, you know, Bible goodness. And
she didn't end up that way.
And then pride came, you know?
Yes. So I loved that. I loved how she just went all in, even though I was like, girl, can't you see? Like, how are you justifying all this? And she just kept on going. The other thing, and I don't know where I would put this, but I have this in my notes more than once, was I just love the, and I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. I just love the way that like people kept disappearing and we would have a problem with them disappearing in like that episode. And then in the next episode, we're all just rolling along for like, you know, teachers, students, and people, like anybody else could be a serial killer, but no way, man. We just, and that, so it got to the point where I was like, okay, so what are we going to say about this? Nothing. We're not going to say anything. Nothing. And I loved
that. That was last week.
Right. That's not important now.
Lisa, if I can interject one thing, I do. I mean, I agree with you to a certain extent about Christine in terms of how all in she went, but she didn't do it all. She didn't do it right away.
No,
because every time he did something particularly grotesque or egregious, she would be, you know, you could tell she was waiting a beat. And I think that the actress playing her did an excellent job of that, of showing that, that, you know, that it's like, okay, this is horrifying, but then it would be, but this is what's going to happen. And she can't, you know, from her perspective, she probably doesn't want to believe that she, you know, kind of not, you know, summoned. She thinks that she summoned an angel. And
well, and in the end, she doesn't follow through. She chooses her child instead of
you know.
Well, and thank God, because there would have been no redemption for that. Like if this comes back again, how do you redeem that?
Right.
But
you can't.
With that, what Carol says with that beat, you could almost see the wheels turning.
Yeah.
And, but, and that, but would roll right in, you know. So it wasn't a huge hesitation. It was just enough for her to find a way to, make this okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I almost think it might be a good mirror of sort of like the evangelical Christian current state of things, not to get too, you know.
No, it's okay. No, I was going to say Carol's basically my mom and she didn't choose me, but I didn't want to go too dark.
but yeah, there are definitely some like the way to convince yourself and get in so deep that you just can't get out.
It becomes a sunk cost fallacy. Which no, but I've already sacrificed so much for this. I've already done so much for this. I need to see this through.
Well, and I think that's where it switched. I think that's where it switched from. Now I can no longer justify this, but now I'm going to get something out of it, because it was like, well, we're going to do this, and you're going to be the ruler of your own realm. So I think that's when it changed, because it went from being like she thought she was really doing God's work, and then when it's like, well, wait a minute, and then he changed the reward. It wasn't glory in heaven. It was, you're going to be the queen, So I thought that was really good too. Yeah, the writing was great.
Yeah, it was. Sherry, did you have a favorite?
Oh, actually, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I really loved Miss Knight. She's so awful. She's like Ava from Abbott Elementary. She's just like so uniformly terrible. And on the one hand, that can come off as 1D instead of 2D or even 3D, if you're lucky. But realistically, I feel like we all kind of know that teacher. Like we've all seen her at some point. That lady who's trying to relive her glory. And honestly, I saw it mostly.
Well, and that it was a woman reliving her glory days was actually
exactly instead of a dude, right? Because women deserve the opportunity to be just as terrible as men in pop culture, in my opinion. And that's right. She's terrible. And I ran into that more. I taught briefly at the college level. It was not for me. I ended up writing books instead. Yay, about zombies and shit, and that worked better. But but while I was there at this university, I saw a lot of women about my age, and I was young when I was doing it. I was in the middle of my grad program, so I was in my early 20s. I kept seeing a lot of other women my age and like 10 years older than me, who still really wanted to be friends with their student, and what they really wanted to be was like the most popular student. And I'm like, that isn't what we're here for, ladies. And but I feel like it's such a like we've all seen it. It's one of those things where believe women, absolutely, but believe women means give a woman's word the exact weight you would give a man's. It doesn't mean that all women everywhere are telling you the truth 100% of the time, and you should trust every last one of them. And I feel like from like we've had that teacher that we knew we weren't her pet. We knew we weren't her favorite, and we knew that she was going to screw us over if she got half an opportunity to. And that is a difficult thing to do, and do well, and still come out of that character with something like goodwill. And I came out of it with something like goodwill for her. Like, you have been a sad and thwarted person, and this is as close as you're ever going to get to glory. And that's really pitiful for you. But the corollary of that also is it's the oldest trick in the book, where you take a monster and you give the audience a reason to feel sorry for them. And by the end of it, you do feel sorry for her. Like, you realize, you see her very clearly for exactly what she is. And I feel like that's a character that we don't get very often as women. You get it as dudes. You see it a lot.
Yeah.
In educational shows where there's that dude teacher who's too cool for school and wants all the students to call him by his first name and, that kind of thing. Yeah. I feel like we don't get to see that from a female character very often. And while no, we don't want that in a teacher, and no, we don't want that in a friend. And we feel sorry for that in an adult. But so it's difficult for me to say, I loved that character. I didn't like that woman, but I loved that character. That was
there is a distinction there. So
yeah. Carol,
I think I'm going to go slightly different. I really liked Eggs.
Yes,
I thought Eggs was great, and there was just something about him that I think he was very multifaceted. Let's put it that way. I guess that's how you can describe it. I thought that the primary, secondary characters that we dealt with, like him, like Tate, like Candace, like Michelle, who wasn't in, or not Michelle, Valerie.
Miss Knight.
Valerie.
Yeah.
So right. Sorry. Yeah.
That that the other student characters, I thought that they were all really well done. And but Eggs, just, I thought he because from the beginning he knew something was going on.
Yes.
But he didn't really know what it was. And and so he would keep giving them these little hints about the stuff that he saw in the stars, or the stuff that he noticed was happening in the sky. And so he was kind of providing a little bit of assistance without knowing everything that was going on. And I did like Brutus too. I got it.
Brutus. I was shocked that all of you didn't say Brutus, honestly.
I was trying to reach for something else.
Yeah, well, no, I liked Brutus, and I'm still trying to come to terms with the fact that that he had them setting up so he could go see his one true
So
love.
he fucked off in the end to go play with his friends. Yeah. But
Yeah. So I'm still trying to come to terms with that, but I thought it was a great character. I did. I really enjoyed him as well.
But I think to your point, like
too.
the reason that he was such a great character is because I think most of the viewers sensed almost immediately that this guy was not telling them the truth.
Yep.
But they're teenagers. They don't know.
I was shocked.
Were you?
I felt like at the end of episode 1, I'm like, he's full of shit. He's up to something.
No, I thought he's the typical male guardian in the magical story. We have one in Charmed. We have him in Buffy. Like it's like he's just he's the trope. But I was like,
he made
that dude played that so well. The actor played it so well that I immediately went,
You know what, too, though? He was an over-explainer.
Yes, which is a tell of liars.
And I was like, wow, there's a lot of explaining going on. Like, they didn't ask for this. And they did a good job of not glazed donutting on him. But I was like, wow, he's like totally over-explaining. What is he fighting? So, and I kept waiting, and I thought, okay, maybe they're just throwing me a red herring. Like, maybe we're just supposed to not trust him. And at the end, he had them working for him. And I was like, oh my God, really?
But he did come through.
He did.
He didn't actually screw them over so much as like he set them up for success and then bounced. And that's not ideal.
I still love him.
I do too.
Hopefully they will get a second season, and hopefully Brutus will come back.
Yes.
Well, I guess your answer, Anna. Yours was Brutus.
Yes, my answer was Brutus. I also really enjoyed Tate's arc.
Yeah, I did too.
I thought it was so interesting, and just the way that they, took this sort of very typical jock type bully character and made him just do like this 360. Well, I guess 180 more.
Yeah,
they flushed him out. He went from this guy you didn't know anything about to a guy that you knew.
Yeah,
he reminded me a lot of a character. Have you guys seen Booksmart? The movie, Olivia Wilde's movie, right? So he reminded me a lot of the jock in that, and my husband and I were actually talking about that, like kind of a thing that we're starting to see in stories, broadly speaking, right now, is this idea that we think is coming up through millennials and Gen Z. We're like, everybody, if you just gave them a chance and got to know them, most people are actually pretty decent. People have their shitty moments when they're nasty at you or bullying, especially in group settings. People's behavior will change, but you get to know him. He's actually not that bad. He's actually a perfectly decent dude who generally wants to help. But I thought that was, but yes, sorry, I'm jumping in, but I totally agree. I'm going to stop talking now and do this.
No, I don't know if you.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I don't know. This is too soon. I'm not going to give a spoiler, but in the new Hocus Pocus movie, if you guys have seen it,
I haven't seen it yet.
There is a similar like jock type character. And it is something that's popping up more in media, and I've noticed that too.
It's nice.
There's a jock like that in Sex Education as well, if you guys have seen that show.
Yes.
So which is interesting.
Yeah. So
I did not see Brutus coming.
Sorry. I'm so surprised by that because there was something that was just, and I thought he did this really well. It was just off enough. Like it wasn't, a glaring red flashing light going, danger, danger. It was just enough that you were like, oh. And I waited. I was waiting for that shoe to drop.
Yeah. Well, I knew he was hiding something.
Right. Well, that's kind of what I was going to say. Yeah.
I just didn't know. I didn't think it was going to be a complete betrayal.
I can agree with that.
But I did know he was hiding something, and there was going to be some kind of betrayal. I did it, but.
The look on his face when he opened the package with the Pudge Patrol.
Right, with the jackets.
Yeah, you could tell he was like.
It hurt his little heart.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it was. I felt like in the first episode, what it looked like to me was a guy who has found his 2 perfect marks. They're not going to ask that many questions. They're very impressed with him. They think he's very smart and very interesting. And so they're probably going to do what he says. It felt to me like the pilot set up, like, this character has found two people who he thinks are going to be easy to manipulate. And it's like what Lisa was saying about the over-explaining.
I didn't think that harshly of him, but I did think that he was like, he had something that he wanted done.
Yeah, he had an agenda.
Yeah, his agenda, like, and they met the agenda, but I didn't see it as a mark. So you got more of like, the suspicious nature.
I have a really strong suspend my disbelief and let the story take me for the ride that it's trying to take me on. Like, I really try not to think too deeply about, like, I don't want to figure it out before it's shown to me. So I really kind of try to turn that off, you know, so it's hard because as a writer, you know, you're always thinking about like what they would do with the plot. And so I really worked hard. And I apparently was quite successful because I was shocked.
No, I expected him to have some big reveal. I did not expect him to hurt them. I did not expect him to betray them completely and leave them screwed. And he didn't. He tried to set them up for success before he bounced. And in the end, my read on the character was this was a guy who had generally good intentions, thought he had found people who maybe would do what he said because he believed he knew how to fix a situation if he just had some help. And was prepared to lie to them if he needed to, and was prepared to manipulate them if he needed to. I never got the impression he was like strictly bad.
No.
But I did get the impression that no, he's manipulating them to some purpose. He has specifically chosen people who he thinks it will be easy to manipulate. They're teenagers, they're outsiders in their own community. They don't really trust anyone outside of themselves and each other. So if he can find them.
And I don't feel like he chose them. I feel like they opened a portal. Right?
Well, that's true. That's true.
So
the question, Corinne, is when you saw the betrayal, did you yell at the TV? That's what I want. Go, what?
Yeah.
What?
I was like, what? And then I was like, I hope you put your pants 2 times, Brutus.
They gave you a cool satin jacket and said you were one of them, you asshole. What have you done?
Yeah. What would Carl think about?
I feel like he's gonna be a character that has to return because he's just wonderful. So I was wondering if he was gonna if he was gonna step through that portal and then be bounced back because he did it wrong, or like for some moral reason. And I'm disappointed that he disappeared. So I'm hoping that he gets thrown back into the world and they have no choice.
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if we get also him coming back with his true love
girlfriend,
or
true love. Did they even specify a gender? I don't know. His
I think he said she. I think
he said she.
I think
want to assume.
Yeah.
There was not a single flat character in this show. Like even Valerie. Valerie's arc was wonderful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and she kind of was like at the beginning, I mean, when there was this very strict monster of the week, situation, she was always the victim. And she was just always the victim, always this, but then we got to see, towards the end, her kind of reveal a little bit more.
I feel like we all knew that drama girl too. Maybe it wasn't even a girl; it could have been a dude, but we all knew that drama kid.
The drama kid.
She was certainly resilient, wasn't she?
Yeah.
How many times did she get? As you were saying, Anna, she was the one who ended up getting hit with all of these.
And also,
different monsters.
She was the monster of the week, canary in the coal mine.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a good
that
way
girl
of
has capital T trauma week after week, and still she shows up to do the play.
But and her ability to just be like, oh, it was just a gas leak. Okay. Like every
disassociation power. Her superpower is disassociation, I think is what it is.
Well, she was right there with you. Oh, look, another student has disappeared. Oh, okay.
It's come and go. Well, it's like I was thinking about Fright Night. The remake with Colin Farrell, where at one point they actually give it a line of exposition, which I appreciated because you don't always see it, of like, this is Vegas, people move in, people move out, people don't say anything, And honestly, that's kind of how it was when I was in high school in Kentucky, because it was a bunch of military families. Kids came, kids went. You didn't always know why, but you just assumed that, a parent had been reassigned or stationed somewhere else, and so they left. So there are situations where I think that's not quite such a thing. I wish they had given that like one line of exposition.
Yeah.
Just one line to hang. And if they did, I missed it, and that's on me. But I remember thinking of that movie and thinking that was very clever, and I appreciate that. That was that one line that lets us all hang together. And I would have liked to have seen that with regards to all the missing students.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you let a bunch of shit go. It is Monster of the Week. And I love Monster of the Week. I'm here for Monster of the Week. I get really tired of season-long arcs for things that I don't care about when I just want to see Monster of the Week. And I loved that in Astrid and Lilly. It's like, yes.
Yeah, it was
week,
the clever way to keep that. It was a clever way to keep that fresh, I think.
It was.
And
so
speaking and the body part,
right.
Yeah. So speaking of Monster of the Week, who is your favorite monster? And we'll start with Sherry.
Oh no. No, but she already said I liked the misremembering one.
Okay.
Because that's so
that's a
yes. I wish I had thought of that, because it was so good. It was so, everybody misremembers shit. Everybody does. I do, you do, everybody does. You remember a thing that happened because of the way it made you feel at the time. And especially when it came to Lilly, when her mothers were not acceptable for this, Christian birthday party thing, it felt like her best friend rejecting her, but it wasn't. It was her best friend's or her friend's mother rejecting her and her family. And because it felt that way, the memory felt true, but the memory wasn't true. And like you said, the way it kind of uncovered that and repaired that relationship when she realized that she had misremembered this entirely. And I mean, it all kind of comes back to communication, sure, but realistically, especially when you're kids, you remember things the way you remember. It's like that old adage: people will forget what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that monster preyed on exactly that sentiment.
That's true. Yeah, that's
and
a
it
good
was
way to put it.
that was so nicely executed.
It's the power of the wound, like our wound. We all have stories, and it all goes back to like the little kid in us, and how we remembered something, and then we continue to rehash it. So I liked that one. That was a good one.
So my grandmother died last year, but I went back for her funeral fairly recently. I'm not looking for any condolences. She was in her 90s and didn't know who I was. It's sad, but it's not a calamity. But while I was there, I was joking around with my mom at one point about I had skinned my knee when I was about 7 or 8. And my mother was just being funny. She just she's like, well, I guess now you're never going to be a Rockette. That broke my heart. I didn't even know what a Rockette was.
But you were never going to get to be one.
I was never going to get to be one. And it horrified me, and it really upset me. And she didn't understand why. But we can joke about it now, but she's like, I don't remember this. I don't remember telling you any of this. Did this happen? I'm like, yes. And I understand now that you were just throwing out a joke, but I was a little kid and I didn't understand. But that disconnect between intention and result, and the disconnect between what happened and how you remember how it made you feel. Oh, that was a good monster.
Yeah. Carol?
Well, the monster, I was trying to remember what was going on in the rest of the episode, but the monster that I thought was amusing was the one who was there by mistake, the one who had the allergies.
The allergies.
Yeah, and everybody was dancing. And, so that one was kind of amusing, but the one that was really creepy to me was in, I think, the next to the last episode, the Nightmares one. Yeah. The one who took them. And
the Somnium Vistori. I wrote them all down.
Yeah, okay.
I have them written down by their body part. So for me,
I wrote down the memory one, this one, that one. You got it.
Yeah, the hair one was.
Yeah. Well, and I think that because that one was truly creepy looking. You know, the
Yeah.
idea that this would happen, and it kind of plays on a couple of different different fears. But I think that particular episode was also one of my favorites, just because at the end, all of these kids were together, and it was like, okay, we have to put aside, you know, whatever other what amounts to being silly crap that we deal with on a daily basis, that we create to deal with each other. We have to put that aside in order to, you know, vanquish this. So I think there were some interesting metaphors involved in it, but it involved a truly scary looking creature.
That for me is probably one of my favorite episodes, because I feel like it starts to give us the Scoobies vibe.
Exactly.
You know, like they're in this kind of Breakfast Club style situation, and they are figuring out secrets about each other. Everybody now knows about the monsters by the end of it, and they kind of become a team in a way that you know,
exactly,
could be carried through in some really fun ways into another season. Corinne, did you have?
I do. It's what I wrote it down. It's the cavaculus, the one that makes your ego swell and then your head explodes. I loved that episode. I loved that they went after Principal Rashidi. I love that we got to see him like that, because he was a really good character.
And the actor did a great job with that.
That
episode.
But like the way that we watched it happen, with the way that they made their faces red, like they glowed a little bit more when they were activated, and the way that every individual person had a different reaction to the way that their ego was starting to boost. I just thought it was really clever, and I thought that the head exploding was fantastic.
Yeah, that happened in the very beginning. I mean, that was like the first thing we saw. So.
That was also a good one for Valerie.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yeah. Well, and then also the cop was a big one in that one, and it also I forget the cop's name, but like when we learned that if they come into it with a really low self-esteem, that they're going to survive it, it endears him to us, because oh, this guy is just trying to make it happen. He's he's a cop with no self-esteem. Because
the way he like tore apart that locker room.
He's got the tape all wrapped around himself.
And again, like it's another opportunity to flip a trope on its head. We always have the cop that's like the know-it-all bully and will not be told, and this guy's like, and they went out really on the nose, like he has no self-esteem and he's really just trying to figure things out and he's freaking out. And I just thought that, like, they just, at every opportunity they had, they really did a good job of delving into a character that much deeper and using the villain to do that, using the monster of the week to do that. I really just thought it was clever.
But I have to add, before I answer the question, it's also, they took a lot of our known tropes and turned the tropes either upside down or at least made them take a 90-degree turn. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it. Not like, yes, it was tropey. Yes, we had the Scooby vibe, but they made it a different kind of tropey Scooby vibe.
And in a way that was intelligent. It didn't feel like they were just being lazy about it. All of it was like, it really made you think. And the acting was so good. Every single person in the show.
I agree.
At no point did I think that it was like, oh, okay, like that's the same thing. It was all really unique and fresh, I thought.
Yeah, it really was. Lisa, did you?
Oh, that's okay. So I can't believe I debated whether or not I was going to share this, but I've decided I will share with you all. Whoever else is watching. So my favorite monster, I loved all the monsters, actually, because I like this kind of, Buffy, campy, let's just go all out. I like that. But the monster that really hit me was the amygdala monster. What's your worst fear? Because it's very interesting when you look at people's worst fears, and it's something that you may look at and go, I don't even get what that's all about. But I'll tell you why. I have a dodgeball story.
It's never good. Nobody has a good dodgeball.
Never a good one.
No, so I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm going to do it. So when I was in
It's for
third grade-
science, Lisa. It's for science. Just share it.
Oh, so my mom was pretty like, this is the 70s. Like, I'm a 70s kid. So I had this awful jumper that was brown polyester with a green vest. And I hated this goddamn thing. Sorry. I hated this thing.
I've been swearing this whole time. You're fine.
No, that is the strength of this memory. This is third grade. Okay. So we were playing dodgeball and I was wearing this ugly ass jumper that I hated, but my mother wouldn't let me like take it out of the rotation because, you know, you have clothes, you got to wear your clothes.
Mm-hmm.
But I was also wearing a pair of undies that were not very tight. So as I was running in the dodgeball, these like dropped down and one of the legs came down out from under the jumper and it was in front of the entire third grade. So when I saw that dodgeball, like I have hated dodgeball ever since. Completely ruined me. And I don't think I'm like super clumsy or klutzy, but I did not feel like a person who could do gym to that because, you know, the kids in my class called me Panty Girl. So,
Oh my
God. So
That is worse than mine.
I know.
And
like
suddenly I feel endeared to my Catholic school uniform.
I was the blue duck for 3 years.
Yeah, so you know, thankfully we moved because my family was also military, so we moved every year. So I got the hell out of there and didn't be Panty Girl for the rest of elementary school. But it was like,
oh my God,
it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. If my sister's watching this or my mom, they'd be like, "Oh my God, really?" Because nobody really knows this, but that really hit me because of the dodgeball thing. I was like, "Oh my God, it's the brown jumper all over again."
That's
Oh
great.
no.
And
I didn't understand the mayonnaise thing with that one, with that guy. Like, what was mayonnaise?
I made notes about the mayo. I actually have the mayo in here as notes. Let me see.
Well, people have weird, like I have a weird aversion to sloths because when I was in second or third grade, I was at a zoo and it was like the exhibit was like kind of half underground. There's a water feature and there was a sloth swimming toward me with its weird little hook hands and it's like little spooky mask.
Well,
and I'm like, I was a little teeny kid and it wigged me out. Just something about the gesture of it swimming. And I realize that's a really specific and stupid thing to be afraid of. But sometimes I'll catch a bit of it now, like in a wildlife show and be like, ugh, just like full body shudders. It's like, it's a sloth. This is a creature so inoffensive. It only poops once a week. Like, why would I be afraid of a sloth? But it's just, it's the little hook hands. It's the little hook hands, the little mask.
So of all the things that happened in this show, that was one of the moments that popped me out of the story because I was thinking, this creature is from another realm and he has a mayonnaise aversion. Like, I don't see mayonnaise happening in the monster realm.
It just goes to show how disgusting it is everywhere. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Carol gets it.
Somebody else has a mayonnaise aversion.
I have a distinct mayonnaise aversion. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But for dodgeball, man, like, so I've been functionally blind since I was about 5 or 6. And I was that little kid in school with a giant, like you could see into the future, fake glasses. I had a kid break my glasses at dodgeball.
Oh,
and yeah, it meant I got military glasses for the next year or two. And it was just like, but it was before the high index lens. Like now I'm in contacts right now, obviously. But you know, I feel like so many people have terrible dodgeball experiences. That was a genius episode. Who loves dodgeball?
Everybody knows what that ball sounds like. We all know the sound of that ball.
And the red ball with that weird kind of lattice.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The noise when it's
an impression as it.
Well, you know, if it were done the way that you know, that it was probably supposed to be, that you're supposed to just tag somebody with
that
the ball.
Never happened. It never happened.
Yeah,
the big kids always singled out the heavy kids, the tiny kids, the sick kids, the kids with glasses.
Right.
And I was like all of those.
Yeah.
You know, I was the tiny, skinny kid. And I was always the youngest kid in my class because I started school like a week after I turned 6. And so I was always the little one, and I had the crazy glasses, and my mom was the principal, so everybody hated me anyway. So I was like #1 target for the big red ball. I lost a tooth that way once. I shit thee not. And it was the only lost tooth that didn't give me nightmares because I caught them all in the face and then just kind of am stunned for a few seconds and realize I'm now missing a tooth, which I assume I swallowed. I don't know.
Well, I think it's a good time to say like that. Those are all the people that this show seems to be made for.
Yeah.
Taking on the sort of names or whatever that have been called or called ourselves, and then being the Pudge Patrol and getting your nice
owning
little letter
it. Yes.
and owning it.
Some weirdos.
And it's sort of a beautiful thing. So we only have a couple minutes left, really. But is there anything very short and sweet that you're expecting from season 2, want to see in season 2, don't want to see in season 2? Are you just hoping and praying that we get a season 2? Just real quick, let's start back with Carol.
I think, I would like to see Brutus come back with his horn between his, he doesn't have a tail. So, being very apologetic, having to come back and, I would like to see the return of him, but where the dynamic is switched to a certain extent. And because in essence, he was helping them, but they ended up helping him even more, even though they didn't realize it, at the time. And I would like to see that, that being followed up. I agree with you, Anna. I would like to see more of the, the kind of the cohesive unit that the students managed to build. It's not as though they're not still going to poke fun at each other now and then or have differences. But the fact that in the finale we got Tate actually apologizing to both Astrid and Lilly, I thought that was a good thing for people to see, no matter whether you liked the character or not. It was still a good thing to see, because he also had his arc wasn't quite as poignant and as detailed as Candace's was when we saw that transformation, but we did see that. But I definitely want to see those two things in any kind of a season 2, because they obviously have new powers to deal with this other whatever Michelle has
whatever's happened. Corinne?
It's hard to think about how they would, like, I have what I want to have happen, but it would be hard to see how they're going to continue to do it. Like, I would love Monster of the Week again, but like, how long can we carry on with that before it gets tired? So I wonder if it'll have to be something to do with Brutus coming back, and maybe Brutus did something and they are then drawn into it, and the redemption arc happens because they allow it to happen. You know what I mean? Like, there has to be the girls have to consent to allowing that back in. It can't just be something that happens automatically. But I don't know. I would love to see like the next year of school. I would love to see, like Carol said, that friend group. Like, I would love to see the Scooby Gang to do something like that. But I don't know. I don't have any. Again, I'm one of those people that just waits and to be told where the story is going. So I really don't want to.
On the roller coaster.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it to. I really would like it to come back. I think that's the character. The acting was wonderful. Like, and
so wonderful.
You can get hit or miss with these kinds of shows. So it'd be a waste. It'd be a shame to not get them back.
Yeah, it was so good. Okay, Lisa.
So I'm going to be the third echo of I'd like to see if the Scooby Gang, stays together, because a lot of what you saw was people dealing with their own individual things that were going on with the monsters. And so I don't think they can do the Monster of the Week unless Brutus. I like your idea, Corinne, that Brutus would have to come back, and be trailing a horde of monsters behind him or something. I think it would have to be like more of a 10 arc of something that the Scooby Gang would have to work together and overcome. Like, they had a brief moment of togetherness. Like, can they make that last? But I would like to see that, and I want to see how. I would love to see Brutus have to redeem himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a Ghostbusters kind of a thing where like there's unleashed a whole bunch of them and then they have to collect them all.
Stuff them back in the portal or something.
Yeah. Sherry?
I, in my perfect universe, I really do think some of the writing on the show in particular was extremely clever, and they got like between the casting and the writing, I think it just turned into this really wonderful show. But I would like to see a season 2 where Brutus needs something and he's the only one who needs it, and the girls are fully aware going in. I want to see him show up desperately needing their help, and them deciding whether or not to give it to him. And if it's like you said, he comes back trailing, a handful of monsters that are all after him and just him. I want it to not be their stakes. I want their stakes to be human and normal. I want their stakes to be their new relationships, their Scooby Gang, their high school experience, their difficult teachers, their their interactions with their parents, with their whatever. I want the girls to have that breathing room, and I want Brutus to face some consequences in the form of needing their help unapologetically and having to be, or I want them to unapologetically help him as he is apologetic to them, if that makes sense. Like I want him to go, hey, I screwed up. The thing I was trying to do didn't work, and now things are much worse. Will you please help me? Now your universe is not in danger anymore. This is like, I want them to make the choice.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting if his true love, who is a bad guy.
Yeah, right. What if she turns out to be like this huge
what
problem?
if she's just like this huge issue? Like wants to,
because the show did such a good job.
Yeah,
the show did such a good job of taking like Monster of the Week and framing it. So here's how this monster is going to tell you a lot about these characters.
Yeah.
And if you bring her in like that, it tells you so much about him. It tells you about whatever problems he caused wherever he is. And I know it's not necessarily what everybody considers good TV, but I would like to see those girls get a break and to choose their adventures rather than having them foisted upon them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I get that it's TV.
What if they were to hang a shingle and have it be like Monsters Investigation?
How cool would that be? Like Teenager Detective Agency. I mean,
did you
like Teenage Bounty Hunters? That was amazing.
Like Nancy Drew.
I'm so mad that didn't get a second season. It was so great. The opening scene alone, I'm like, oh my God, as a girl who spent a lot of time at Christian school, my friend, I'm here for you. I want grace for those girls. I want them to find their place and to understand the power that they have and to take advantage of it. And I want them to do it ideally as a choice to help somebody who both helped and hindered them in the past. And I don't know. I hope we get a second season. It charmed me so much, especially because at the time I was writing the sequel to a book that had come out a bit earlier. And part of the central theme of the book is this long form friendship between these two women who met in high school. And I don't have that kind of relationship with anybody right now who I'm still like. I have good friends now. I learned how to adult and to meet people and to not be a total weirdo all the time. But when I was young, I didn't. And so that arc of somebody who's known two friends who have been so close for so long is something a little new and unfamiliar to me. And so I loved this show for that. I loved the way it framed that and centered that. And I thought it was glorious. And I want to keep, I would love to see that continue to be the center of the show for what else happens next.
Yeah, I think that will be. And that is our time. So I want to thank all of the panelists, and I want to thank Carol for letting us do this, because I just needed to talk about the show. I have like literally 5 pages of notes, and I was like, I need to do this panel.
Someone must hear this.
So thank you, Carol, for letting me have this. And
you're very welcome.
Thank all of our viewers as well for joining us. So good night.
Yes, and many thanks to Anna. Thanks to everybody for being here. And just to let you know about a couple of other things we have coming up on our YouTube channel this month. Next week, there'll be an author interview with Leanna Renee Heber. And then on the 27th, we will be having Buffy Watch Season 2.
Oh, man.
And we are very excited to be doing that again as well. So thank you to everyone who watches this. Whether you've watched with us live, whether you watch it later, we appreciate it. And thanks very much. Stay tuned to the track Facebook page for all kinds of information about upcoming virtual panels, because we do them all year long now. So, but thank you, everyone, and good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everybody. And thanks again, Carol and Anna and everybody else, and Corinne and Lisa.
You're
Have a
welcome.
good one,
Thank
everybody.
you.